The camera zooms in on the woman, capturing the visible conflict written across her face. Her cheeks are dusted with a faint rosy blush, and a single bead of nervous sweat trickles down her temple. Her hands are curled together near her chest in a defensive, self-conscious gesture, clutching at her sleeve. She looks uncertain, caught between the desire to say something more and the instinct to flee from the overwhelming intensity of his gaze. The sparkling night lights in the background contrast with the internal storm of her emotions. The perspective shifts lower, focusing on the tension in the space between them. The man doesn't immediately hand back the bag. Instead, he stands his ground, his presence looming and assertive. The silence between them stretches, becoming heavy with unspoken words. Sensing his hesitation, or perhaps a hidden motive in his gaze, he prompts her with a short, teasing question. Something to say. It is a clear invitation for her to extend the moment, challenging her to move past mere politeness. The scene opens under the soft, ethereal glow of a moonlit evening. A tall, well-dressed man stands before a woman, a playful yet confident smirk dancing on his lips. He holds her blue bag strap casually over his shoulder, a gesture that feels both helpful and intentionally lingering. The woman looks up at him, her expression a mix of surprise and mild, flustered realization. "Ah, thank you for helping me earlier," she says, her voice carrying a polite but slightly breathless tone as she acknowledges his sudden intervention in her evening. Overwhelmed by the pressure of the moment, the woman quickly tries to backtrack. She pulls her hands closer to her body, her posture becoming more guarded as she realizes she might have let her guard down too much. "That's not what I meant," she stammers, the speech bubble trailing off into an ellipsis that signals her mounting embarrassment. She is desperately trying to regain her composure and correct whatever impression she thinks she just gave him. Finally, wanting to end the awkward tension, she reaches out to reclaim her belongings. With a sharp whip sound effect, she grabs the blue strap of her bag. Her movements are quick and slightly frantic as she dismisses the conversation entirely. "Never mind, you can give me my bag now," she insists, her tone shifting toward a forced bluntness. Though she is taking her bag back, the lingering energy of their interaction suggests that this encounter is far from forgotten. As she moves further away, she continues to process the encounter, her hands still tight on the strap of the bag she just reclaimed. The inner dialogue becomes even more resolute. The spiked bubble punctuates her decision with absolute finality. So, in the end, it's a no. This is the moment she mentally slams the door on whatever dangerous proposal or connection existed between them, choosing safety and distance over the unknown risks he represents. The woman takes the cue to leave, her body performing a sharp turn away from him. As she begins to walk, her internal thoughts begin to swirl in jagged, spiked speech bubbles, reflecting her agitation. She rationalizes his behavior to herself, thinking, "Makes sense. He didn't reach out since that night," acknowledging a period of silence between them. She justifies the end of their interaction by labeling his previous offer as a dangerous proposal after all, convincing herself that walking away is the only logical choice. The moment of tension finally breaks with a polite yet distant dismissal. The camera focuses on their feet, his polished black dress shoes standing firm against her casual white sneakers on the stone-paved ground. The physical gap between them symbolizes the emotional distance they are maintaining. With a simple, courteous instruction, he bids her farewell. "Well then, get home safe." It is a standard parting phrase, but in the context of their charged interaction, it feels like the closing of a brief window of opportunity. With her eyes closed and her head held high, she walks into the cool night air, deliberately putting the encounter behind her. Her expression is one of forced calm and stoicism. She tells herself, In that case, there's no reason for me to get involved with him any further. Behind her, the man remains visible in the distance, a slight, knowing smile still lingering on his face as he watches her depart. He seems unfazed by her rejection, almost as if he expects their paths to cross again. The final scene captures the physical space between them as she walks away. She is now in the foreground, her back partially turned, her silhouette framed by the dark blue of the night sky. The man stands several paces behind her, his hand resting confidently on his hip. Though she is determined to move forward and cut ties, his lingering presence in the frame suggests that, despite her inner resolution to stay uninvolved, the shadow of his influence and that dangerous proposal will not be so easily escaped. The air is thick with unspoken tension when a single word pierces the silence. Wait. It hangs in the void, a sudden plea to stop the momentum of the moment. This brief command serves as the turning point, a desperate attempt to catch one's breath before the conversation shifts into deeper, perhaps more dangerous territory. A soft light catches the profile of the woman, her expression a delicate mix of contemplation and lingering sadness. As she looks away, a voice reaches out to her with a gentle persistence. "Since it's come to this, stay with me a little longer," he asks. It isn't just a request for time, it's an invitation to delay the inevitable goodbye, seeking a few more stolen moments in the quiet of the night. The distance between them vanishes. He leans in close, his gaze fixed on her with an intensity that is both charming and overwhelming. A slight, confident smile plays on his lips as he reminds her of their unfinished business. We still have things to talk about anyway, don't we? The closeness of his face and the warmth of his presence make the world outside their immediate circle feel like it has completely disappeared. The atmosphere turns electric as he looms over her, his presence commanding the space between them. His hand rests near her, a subtle gesture of possessiveness or perhaps protection. She looks up at him, eyes wide and startled, her breath hitching as she takes in the sharp lines of his face and the dark elegance of his attire. In this narrow space, the unspoken attraction between them is palpable, heavy with the weight of things left unsaid. The scene shifts to a starkly different environment, a brightly lit cafe with a clinical, tiled floor. The two sit across from one another at a small, round wooden table, the high-angle view emphasizing the space between them. He sits hunched over a drink, perhaps seeking comfort in the caffeine, while she sits poised and upright, her expression unreadable. After the intensity of their earlier encounter, they are now left with the reality of their situation, settling into a heavy silence as they finally begin the long-awaited conversation. Seated in the quiet cafe, the man, Mr. Han, seems surprisingly preoccupied with the sweet treat before him. Despite his sharp, dark suit and formidable presence, he carefully lifts a small spoonful of dessert, his gaze softened by a hint of concentration. There is a strange, grounding humanity in the way he handles the delicate spoon, a sharp contrast to the intense and commanding aura he projected only moments before. Across the table, the woman watches him with a mixture of apprehension and curiosity. She remains silent, her lips pressed into a thin line as she waits for him to break the ice. The glimmer of her diamond earrings catches the light, but her eyes remain fixed on him, searching for a clue as to what he is thinking. The air between them is thick with a heavy, expectant silence that neither seems ready to shatter just yet. As she watches him indulge in the whipped cream-topped drink, a stray thought drifts through her mind. Looking down at the stark contrast between her own simple cup and his elaborate dessert, she realizes something she hadn't noticed before. Seems like he has a sweet tooth, she muses internally, finding a small, disarming quirk in a man who otherwise seems so untouchable. Finally, she decides to bring the focus back to the reason they are there. Breaking the quiet, she speaks his name with a formal yet firm tone to regain his attention. "Mr. Han, you said you had something to tell me," she reminds him, her expression turning serious as she prompts him to reveal the purpose behind his earlier persistence. Her words hit their mark, causing him to pause. Still holding his spoon, his posture shifts slightly as he acknowledges her question. "Ah, yes, I did," he replies, his voice steady and calm. The playful distraction of the dessert is momentarily set aside as he prepares to address the unfinished things that brought them to this table in the first place. The scene begins with a close-up of a delicate dessert, a spoonful of cream being lifted as a conversation hangs in the air. A voice asks with a mix of curiosity and anticipation, "What exactly is it? Is it an answer to the proposal I made the other day?" The atmosphere is thick with the weight of a pending decision, setting the stage for a serious revelation. Continuing the focus on the dessert, the tension softens slightly as the speaker begins to open up. The response comes tentatively. "Yes, to be honest." The visual of the soft, swirling cream mirrors the gentle but honest direction the conversation is taking as the speaker prepares to address the proposal head-on. The dialogue shifts toward a compliment that catches the listener off guard. The speaker admits, "There was nothing wrong with your acting that day. In fact, you were very skilled." Above the character's head, a stylized flush sound effect appears, signaling that these words of praise have hit their mark, causing an immediate, involuntary reaction from the person being complimented. We finally see the woman's face, and the praise has clearly affected her. Her cheeks are dusted with a deep, rosy blush, and a single bead of sweat rolls down her temple, betraying her nervousness. Her expression is a complex mix of surprise, embarrassment, and perhaps a hint of defensiveness, her brow slightly furrowed as she processes the unexpected validation of her acting. The mood shifts from light-hearted embarrassment to a more somber tone. A dark-haired man enters the frame, looking down thoughtfully as he delivers a more cautious reality check. "But thinking it over, I've realized that accepting your proposal would come with risks for me as well." The woman, still flushed, can only respond with a stunned "risks?" The moment marks a transition from a simple yes or no to a complicated negotiation of consequences. As the word risks hangs in the air, the woman sits frozen across the table, her hand still holding a spoon midair. The man sits with his back to us, a wall of solid black, while her face remains flushed and wide-eyed with confusion. The dynamic has shifted completely. The flirtatious atmosphere created by his previous praise has been replaced by a heavy, professional, and somewhat cold tension. Determined to understand the nature of these risks, she begins to question his underlying motivations. She asks pointedly if his hesitation is about money or is Chairman G looking after you. Her suspicion deepens as she wonders if there is an external power at play, finally voicing the most personal question of all. "Is that why you're dating Nayoung?" The camera zooms in on the man, focusing on the lower half of his face and his steady hand as he brings the spoon to his lips. He remains remarkably composed, refusing to let his expression betray any emotion. This deliberate, slow movement suggests a man who is in total control of the situation, choosing his next words with surgical precision while she waits for an answer. He dismisses her theories with a cool, almost arrogant confidence, sliding his glass across the table. "I don't need anything like that," he states firmly, before adding with a touch of bluntness, "This might sound obnoxious, but I have plenty of money, and I've got enough connections too." By emphasizing his own wealth and status, he makes it clear that he cannot be bought or manipulated by the typical means she suspected. The scene ends with a top-down view of the table, looking down at a lone cup of coffee and the man's hands resting near his lap. Having established that he doesn't need money or connections, the woman's original confusion returns with even more force. The final, echoing question remains. Then why are you with Na-young? If not for gain or protection, his relationship with Na-young becomes an even greater mystery he has yet to solve for her. To punctuate his demand, the man's finger descends upon the table with a sharp tap. The close-up shot focuses on his fingertip pressing down on the handle of a silver spoon. This small, deliberate gesture serves as a rhythmic exclamation point to his words, signaling his impatience and the weight of the information he is hunting for. It is a power move designed to command the full attention of his companion. The scene opens with a high-angle, wide shot of an elegant, modern cafe. A man dressed in a sharp black suit sits at a table, leaning forward slightly. The atmosphere is heavy with unspoken intent. A large speech bubble dominates the upper frame, declaring his singular purpose with cold precision. I need information. The tilted perspective of the camera emphasizes the gravity of his demand, suggesting that the world he inhabits is one of high stakes and hidden truths. The perspective shifts to a wide, side-profile view of the two figures seated across from one another. The woman, with long, wavy, rose-colored hair, sits perfectly still, her expression unreadable. Between them lies a vast expanse of table, symbolizing the psychological distance and the transactional nature of their meeting. The lavish chandeliers above and the sparkling dust motes in the air contrast with the cold, business-like tension radiating from their silent confrontation. We move into a tight close-up of the woman's face. Her pale skin and striking pink eyes are framed by sharp, geometric diamond earrings that glint under the cafe lights. She does not flinch or look away. Instead, she maintains a stoic, almost icy composure. Her lips are set in a thin line, and her gaze is analytical, silently weighing the man's worth and the danger of the request he has just put on the table. The tension finally breaks when the woman speaks. The man's dark hair and startled eyes are shown in the lower half of the panel, marked by a single exclamation point bubble that captures his sudden internal shift. Above him, her response is clear and definitive. I can give you information. With this simple sentence, the power dynamic shifts. The hunter has found his source, but the price of such knowledge remains a mystery. The camera shifts to a profile shot of the man, his gaze sharp and contemplative as he listens to her bold claim. His expression is a mask of cool professionalism, his dark eyes narrowed slightly as he evaluates the woman sitting across from him. He is a man who deals in certainties, and he is currently measuring whether her confidence is backed by genuine capability or if it is merely a desperate bluff. The focus centers on the woman, though only her torso is visible, emphasizing her professional and guarded demeanor in her dark attire. She speaks with a cold, unwavering confidence that cuts through the silence of the cafe. She isn't just offering help, she is asserting her superiority over a competitor, stating, "Whatever information you need, I'd be better at uncovering it than Na-young." This is more than a pitch. It is a declaration of her unique value and a direct challenge to anyone else the man might consider. The woman raises the stakes even further, her pink eyes locking onto his with terrifying intensity. She offers a piece of bait that is impossible to ignore, her speech bubble looming large as she promises, even the kind of information that will let you pull strings on anyone in my family. By offering up the secrets of her own bloodline, she demonstrates that she has no loyalties other than to the deal at hand, making her the most dangerous and useful ally he could find. As she finishes her sentence, the woman places a hand over her heart, a gesture that ironically suggests sincerity in a conversation built on betrayal. She sits poised behind her coffee mug, her long wavy rose hair cascading over her shoulders, looking every bit the refined aristocrat while discussing the downfall of her own family. The contrast between her elegant appearance and the ruthless nature of her words creates a chilling atmosphere of high society intrigue. The scene concludes with a close-up of the man's hand on the table, another rhythmic tap echoing his internal thoughts. He seems almost taken aback by how quickly the situation has escalated. A jagged, spiky speech bubble reflects his internal surprise as he muses to himself. All I did was say the word information. He had come looking for a lead, but he has accidentally triggered an avalanche of secrets that may be more than he bargained for. The scene opens with a sharp, rhythmic tap as a finger strikes a surface, punctuating a moment of intense realization. The character is deeply impressed, noting that despite the complexity of the situation, she has already managed to grasp the entire picture. More importantly, she has seen through his masks to identify exactly what he is pursuing. It is a moment of intellectual kinship, or perhaps the birth of a strategic alliance. The narrative shifts to a cold, somber visualization of her family dynamic. We see a family portrait where the figures are bathed in light, yet one woman stands to the side, cast in a purple, shadowed hue, physically present but emotionally ostracized. The protagonist observes this disconnect with a calculating eye, thinking to himself that her family clearly fails to recognize her true value. To them, she is an outsider. To him, she is a hidden gem. We transition to a close-up of the protagonist's face, his gaze sharp and focused. Now that he understands her brilliance and her family's neglect, his mind begins to weave a new plan. A sense of opportunism washes over him as he realizes that her presence is no longer a variable, but a powerful asset. He muses internally that, thanks to her, his own goals might become significantly easier to achieve. The sequence concludes with a smug, knowing smile playing across the man's lips. He rests his chin on his hand in a classic pose of a mastermind who has just found the final piece of a puzzle. There is a hint of dark charisma in his expression. He isn't just satisfied, he is captivated by the potential of using her talents for his own ends. The game has changed, and he is ready to make his next move.